What you're about to hear isn't the sanitized version found in textbooks or recruitment reels. According to declassified field reports and after-action summaries, the most relentless enemy faced by American jungle snipers in Southeast Asia was not always the figure moving between the trees, it was the environment itself. Silent. Unseen. Constant. Military records from operations conducted during the Vietnam era describe a battlefield where the climate attacked the human body long before the enemy ever pulled a trigger. Pay close attention, because this is the side of war few are willing to discuss. Before a single shot was fired, before a target was even identified, the jungle had already begun its assault. Temperatures routinely climbed past physiological safety thresholds. Humidity hovered near saturation, turning every breath into labor. For snipers trained to remain motionless for hours, sometimes days, this was not merely uncomfortable. It was dangerous. Fatal, in some cases. In dense jungle terrain across Vietnam, the climate erased the line between survival and mission success. The body sweated constantly, even in stillness. Salt drained from muscles. Vision blurred. Hands trembled almost imperceptibly, just enough to turn a perfect shot into a miss. Field manuals warned about dehydration, but jungle conditions made hydration a paradox. Drink too much and movement increased, drink too little and cognitive function collapsed. Military doctors embedded with infantry units noted something disturbing. Snipers were not just fighting exhaustion, they were fighting their own biology. Heat stress impaired decision-making. Prolonged humidity softened skin, leading to infections that spread silently beneath clothing. Fungal diseases, heat rash, and trench foot were not side effects of war, they were constants. The jungle never stopped working on the body. And yet, the mission demanded stillness. Snipers from the United States Army were trained to disappear into terrain. In temperate environments, this meant patience. In the Southeast Asian jungle, it meant suffering in silence. The instinct to swat an insect could expose a position. The need to wipe sweat from the eyes could mean death. Leeches crawled into boots. Ants bit exposed skin. Mosquitoes whined inches from the ear. Still, the sniper could not move. Veteran accounts described moments when the jungle felt alive, not metaphorically, but tactically. Leaves shifted without wind. Branches snapped under unseen weight. Every sound demanded interpretation. Was it wildlife? Or was it a human presence using the same cover, the same humidity, the same heat to stay hidden? This constant uncertainty eroded discipline over time. Not through fear alone, but through mental fatigue. Snipers reported hallucinations during long overwatch missions, shadows that weren't there, whispers carried by stagnant air. The mind, deprived of relief, began to manufacture threats. That psychological strain compounded the physical toll, creating a feedback loop of stress and exhaustion. Documents from jungle operations during the Vietnam era repeatedly emphasize one reality: the climate dictated tactics. Engagement windows were shorter. Movement occurred at specific hours to avoid heat collapse. Rifles required constant maintenance because moisture corroded metal and warped wooden stocks. Optics fogged at the worst possible moments. The environment interfered with technology as effectively as sabotage. And perhaps most cruelly, the jungle offered no signal when it was winning. There was no explosion. No warning shot. Just a gradual decline. Reaction time slowed. Judgment dulled. Emotional control frayed. The sniper remained in position, believing he was still effective until suddenly, he wasn't. Silent. Sudden. Fatal. This is where the story truly begins. Because what follows is not just about heat or humidity, but about how the jungle systematically dismantled the human mind and body, and how snipers were forced to adapt, endure, or break. What military doctrine rarely admits is that climate doesn't just influence combat, it actively shapes outcomes. In the jungles of Southeast Asia, heat and humidity functioned like an invisible weapons system, one that required no ammunition and left no blast crater. According to operational logs and sniper debriefings, prolonged exposure to jungle conditions degraded combat effectiveness faster than enemy fire. This was not theory. This was lived reality. Snipers operating during the Vietnam War were expected to maintain absolute control over breathing, muscle tension, emotional response. Precision shooting depends on stability, a steady pulse, regulated respiration, fine motor control. The jungle attacked all three simultaneously. Core body temperatures climbed. Heart rates increased even at rest. Breathing became shallow and fast. The body betrayed the mission. Veterans recall lying in hides where the air felt thick, almost solid. Each inhale carried moisture so dense it seemed to drown the lungs. Sweat pooled beneath the body, soaking uniforms until fabric clung like a second skin. Over time, that moisture softened flesh, opening the door to infection. Cuts that would have healed in days back home turned septic. Jungle rot spread quietly, eating away at feet and hands, the very tools a sniper depended on. And still, they remained motionless. The enemy understood this environment intimately. Fighters from the Viet Zone used heat and humidity as allies. They moved when American forces were weakest, during the hottest hours, when dehydration blurred perception and slowed response. Snipers weren't just hunting targets, they were racing against physical collapse. Field reports describe moments when sweat dripped from the brim of a boonie hat directly onto rifle stocks. Wood swelled. Metal components rusted overnight. Optics fogged internally, rendering scopes useless without warning. A sniper could line up a shot perfectly only to lose the target behind a film of condensation at the critical second. This wasn't frustration. It was terror. Because the jungle punished hesitation. A missed opportunity could mean relocation, exposure, or counter-detection. Snipers wrote of hands trembling uncontrollably despite mental focus. Not fear, heat. Electrolyte imbalance. Nerve fatigue. The body misfiring under environmental stress. Then there were the parasites. Leeches slipped through clothing seams and attached silently. Hours later, blood loss became noticeable, not through pain, but weakness. Ants swarmed exposed skin, biting repeatedly until muscles twitched involuntarily. Mosquitoes carried diseases that could remove a soldier from combat without a single enemy encounter. Malaria. Dengue. Dysentery. Each one a delayed action casualty. Yet the most dangerous effect was psychological. Extended isolation in oppressive heat warped perception. Snipers described time distortion, minutes stretching into hours, hours collapsing into seconds. The mind searched desperately for stimulation, for movement, for relief. Every rustle became suspicious. Every shadow seemed intentional. Hypervigilance turned inward, exhausting cognitive reserves. Some veterans admitted that the hardest part was resisting the urge to move. To scratch. To stretch. To stand up and breathe freely for just one moment. But that moment could expose a silhouette. A flash of movement. A death sentence. So they stayed still. And as days passed, the line between endurance and breakdown blurred. Emotional numbness set in. Irritability followed. Discipline eroded not because of weakness, but because the human nervous system was never designed for this kind of sustained stress. The jungle didn't need to kill you outright. It only needed to make you fail once. And as the heat pressed in, hour after hour, it became clear this environment was not neutral. It was an active participant in the fight, shaping decisions, timing, and survival in ways no battlefield map could capture. The tension was building. The jungle was tightening its grip. By the third day in position, many snipers reported that the battle was no longer external. It was internal. The jungle had moved past discomfort and into domination. Muscles cramped without warning. Vision narrowed. Thought slowed, then fragmented. Yet the mission remained unchanged: observe, identify, wait. This is where the true psychological war began. In regions like the Mekong Delta, the terrain offered concealment so complete it bordered on sensory deprivation. Dense foliage blocked sunlight, trapping heat beneath the canopy. Air circulation ceased. Sound behaved strangely, muffled one moment, amplified the next. Snipers learned quickly that stillness did not bring calm. It brought awareness of every bodily failure. Breathing became a conscious act. Too fast, and the chest rose visibly. Too slow, and dizziness set in. Sweat ran into eyes, blurring vision, but wiping it away risked detection. The rifle lay inches from the face, metal warm to the touch, optics hovering uselessly between clarity and fog. The body screamed for movement. The mission demanded silence. Veterans later described these hours as claustrophobic, even in open jungle. The inability to move created a sensation of being buried alive. Not by earth, by expectation. Every second stretched under the weight of consequences. One careless shift could expose a firing lane. One involuntary twitch could end everything. And then there was the waiting. Sniper doctrine emphasizes patience, but jungle patience was different. It was not passive. It was active resistance against instinct. Insects crawled across faces. Leeches migrated upward, drawn by warmth. Ant bites created chains of pain that pulsed rhythmically, daring the sniper to react. Many didn't. Some couldn't help it. Those moments were often fatal. Enemy forces understood stillness too. They used it to bait. To test. A single figure might appear briefly at the edge of visibility, then vanish. Was it intentional? Was it accidental? The sniper had seconds to decide, under heat-induced cognitive fog, whether to engage. Misjudgment carried consequences far beyond a missed shot. After-action reports reveal that heat exhaustion frequently coincided with tactical errors. Targets were misidentified. Distances miscalculated. Rules of engagement blurred. The environment didn't just exhaust the body, it compromised ethics, discipline, and restraint. And once a shot was fired, the jungle responded instantly. Sound echoed unpredictably, bouncing off vegetation, disguising origin. Return fire could come from any direction. Extraction under extreme heat became a race against collapse. Elevated heart rates combined with dehydration pushed some snipers into shock before they reached safety. But the most lasting damage wasn't always physical. Extended exposure to this environment altered emotional response. Snipers reported detachment, a narrowing of empathy, a mechanical approach to survival. Not cruelty. Adaptation. The jungle demanded it. Feel too much, and you hesitate. Hesitate, and you die. By this stage of deployment, many soldiers understood a hard truth: the enemy did not need to find you. The climate would do the work if given enough time. The jungle pressed closer. The air grew heavier. And the margin for error shrank to nothing. The escalation was far from over. By the time many snipers reached the later stages of their jungle deployments, the damage was no longer subtle. It was cumulative. Layered. Relentless. What began as physical strain evolved into something far more dangerous: psychological erosion. Military psychiatrists reviewing post-mission evaluations during operations in Southeast Asia noticed a recurring pattern. Snipers exposed to prolonged heat and humidity showed symptoms consistent with acute stress reactions long before direct combat engagement. Irritability. Emotional blunting. Disrupted memory. The jungle was reshaping cognition in real time. Heat deprivation does something insidious to the brain. Core temperature rises just enough to interfere with neurotransmitter balance. Judgment slows. Emotional regulation weakens. In a sniper, whose role demands restraint and precision, this imbalance was catastrophic. Veterans later recalled moments when anger surged without cause. When fear appeared suddenly, then vanished. When moral clarity felt distant and abstract. Night made it worse. As darkness fell over the jungle, humidity peaked. The air became suffocating. Sleep was fragmented, shallow, often impossible. Snipers on extended overwatch missions entered a state of half-wakefulness, where dreams bled into perception. Shapes moved at the edge of vision. Sounds repeated in patterns that felt intentional. The mind, deprived of rest, began to invent meaning. Some described hearing voices. Not commands. Not hallucinations in the cinematic sense. Whispers carried by windless air. The imagination filling gaps left by exhaustion. The awareness that one mistake, one misread shadow, could end not just a mission, but a life. In this state, discipline was tested to its breaking point. Field commanders documented incidents where snipers broke concealment prematurely, not because of enemy pressure, but psychological overload. The need to escape the hide. To breathe freely. To move. These were not failures of courage. They were human limits being exceeded. The jungle exploited that. Enemy patrols understood the rhythms of American exhaustion. They moved slowly. Deliberately. Forcing prolonged observation rather than quick engagement. Every additional minute in the heat increased the likelihood of error. In this way, climate and enemy tactics merged into a single, suffocating force. Veterans later spoke of guilt not always tied to actions, but to sensations. The memory of wanting to give up. Of fantasizing about capture, injury, anything that would end the waiting. These thoughts lingered long after the war ended, resurfacing in dreams soaked with heat and paralysis. The psychological scars were invisible, but permanent. By the final weeks of deployment, many snipers operated on instinct alone. Training gave way to reflex. Emotion narrowed. Survival became mechanical. Effective, yes, but at a cost that would not be calculated until years later. The jungle had done what bullets often could not. It had hollowed them out. One final reckoning remained, the realization of what this invisible enemy had taken, and how it would follow them home. What history often fails to record is that for many jungle snipers, the war did not end with extraction. It followed them home. Quietly. Persistently. The heat, the stillness, the suffocating pressure of the jungle lingered long after the uniforms were folded away. Veterans returning from Southeast Asia carried no visible wounds, yet many struggled to reintegrate. Civilian environments felt unnervingly open. Silence became unbearable. Stillness, once a survival skill, triggered anxiety. According to post-war psychological evaluations, former snipers reported heightened sensitivity to temperature, claustrophobic reactions in confined spaces, and recurring dreams where movement was impossible and breathing felt heavy, wet, obstructed. The climate had rewired them. Unlike battles marked by explosions and clear lines of engagement, the jungle war was intimate and internal. The enemy was time. Heat. The slow degradation of the body and mind under conditions designed to strip away comfort, certainty, and control. Many veterans later admitted that they feared the jungle more than direct combat. Bullets were immediate. The environment was patient. Military historians now acknowledge that jungle warfare during the Vietnam era forced tactical evolutions that are still studied today. Sniper deployment times were shortened. Hydration protocols rewritten. Equipment redesigned to resist moisture and corrosion. But these changes came at a human cost, learned through trial, error, and suffering. The most enduring lesson was this: climate is not background. It is a combatant. For the men who operated alone, motionless, hidden beneath layers of heat and foliage, survival demanded more than marksmanship. It demanded psychological surrender, the acceptance that comfort, control, and relief were luxuries that no longer existed. Every mission became a negotiation between duty and human limitation. And when those limits were crossed, the consequences echoed for decades. Today, as modern militaries prepare forces for extreme environments, the experiences of these jungle snipers serve as a warning. Technology evolves. Weapons change. But the human nervous system remains fragile under sustained stress. Ignore that, and no amount of training will compensate. This story is not about victory or defeat. It is about endurance. It is about men who faced an enemy that never slept, never revealed itself, and never stopped pressing in until something gave. Silent. Invisible. Unforgiving. If this story gave you a deeper understanding of what war truly demands from those sent to fight it, honor that sacrifice. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. And remember the battles that never made the headlines but never truly ended.